What if I told you that some of the most talented groups from the 1990s and early 2000s were underrated and never got the recognition they truly deserved? Whether it was because of inadequate promotion, fierce competition, or just terrible timing, let's find out. From the intro group, who had a tremendous lead singer as the lead vocalists, to men of vision, who won a Grammy Award for Best R&B Performer. Here are 15 underrated R&B groups you forgot existed. Number 1. Intro. Allow me to reintroduce Intro, the silky, harmony-rich trio behind the 1990s hit song. The group is one of the most underappreciated, yet unquestionably excellent R&B groups you've probably forgotten existed. In 1993, Intro, led by producer-songwriter Donald Jones, produced their self-titled first album, which combined deep balladry, slick new jack swing, and smooth harmonies. The album as a whole, which had notable songs like Come Inside and It's All About You, never received the general attention it deserved, despite the lead single Let Me Be the One receiving some exposure. Despite their youthful appearance, the trio, who were formerly pals from high school, had a refined and sophisticated sound. The ensemble, which was largely written and produced by Donald Jones, had a degree of skill and artistry that was comparable to many more well-known bands of the time. Intro placed more emphasis on songwriting and vocal chemistry than it did on gimmick-heavy promotion or dazzling graphics. Decades later, the album's rich rhythms and heartfelt romances still make for enjoyable listening. In the early 1990s, when legendary bands like Boyz II Men, Jodeci, Dru Hill, and Blackstreet ruled the charts and radio, Intro first appeared. These organizations attracted public notice with their unique visuals and effective marketing. Intro found it more difficult to stand out against larger, more popular artists because of their more subtle and modest manner, even with their silky sound and vocal prowess. Having been signed to Atlantic Records under DJ Eddie F's Untouchables label, Intro lacked the funding and marketing clout of companies such as LaFace or Uptown. As a result, there was less support for the tour, less radio play, and fewer MTV and BET music video rotations. Poor promotion further hurt their second album, New Life, which made it harder for them to keep up the pace after their debut. The group's lead vocalist and primary songwriter, Kenny Green, was a tremendously gifted musician who wrote many of their hits as well as songs for other musicians. But unlike some of his peers, like Babyface or R. Kelly, he would rather remain anonymous than pursue a solo career. Because of this, Intro needed a well-known frontman to raise the group's popularity. Kenny Green's premature death in 2001 from issues associated with AIDS had a significant impact on the group's history. During the 2000s, when many 90s artists were seeing a resurgence, his sickness was kept a secret for years, and his death put an end to any hopes of a significant return or fresh interest in the group. Number 2. Profile. R&B was overflowing with groups performing emotional songs and slick harmonies in the late 1990s and early 2000s. One such group was Profile, a vocal quartet from Shreveport, Louisiana, who gained a loyal fan base because of their passionate lyrics and smooth vocals, but were never able to achieve mainstream superstardom. Although they were eclipsed by more well-known acts like Boyz II Men and 112, Profile was a hidden treasure of their time because of their music, which struck a balance between traditional soul roots and modern urban flair. Profile, who were formed in the mid-1990s, had a style that blended realistic songs about relationships, love, and heartache with beautiful, layered harmonies. The group's vocal connection and emotional depth were on full display in the powerful ballad Liar, which was the breakthrough hit from their debut album Whispers in the Dark. Their subsequent releases, like Nothing But Drama, which had songs like Damn, which combined hip-hop influenced sound with sweet vocals, demonstrated their ongoing mastery of their art. Despite possessing the necessary skills for success, talent, strong composition, and catchy hooks, Profile's career was hindered by a lack of marketing and a congested R&B scene. However, their music lives on as a tribute to the soulful vibe of the time, appealing to listeners who go beyond the radio singles to find the more in-depth cuts. During this time, TV concerts, magazine articles, and music videos were crucial for establishing star power. Compared to their colleagues, Profile had less possibilities to be included in major media outlets, which limited the group's public awareness. Number 3. Shay. Shay was formed at Howard University. The group first became well-known via their performances at local gatherings and talent shows. They made their breakthrough when Carl Martin sent a DJ at WPGC a sample of their song If I Ever Fall in Love. After the DJ aired it, it received extensive radio play and ultimately landed a record deal with MCA Records and Gasoline Alley. If I Ever Fall in Love was a huge hit when it was released in 1992, peaking at number 1 on the R&B charts and number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. Their debut album, If I Ever Fall in Love, achieved double platinum status in the United States due to the success of the song. However, they found it difficult to sustain their high degree of commercial success following this early triumph. They were slightly less well-known as their later albums failed to live up to the great acclaim of their debut. Shay was renowned for their emotional songs and superb vocal harmonies, fusing R&B melodies with a cappella genres. The group did not always have the label backing or media exposure necessary to maintain their long-term prominence, despite their brilliance. As a result, a lot of casual R&B fans could recall their major song, but ignore their other excellent work. The R&B landscape rapidly changed after Shay's breakthrough in the early 1990s, favoring edgier artists like Jodeci and Dru Hill and more hip-hop influenced sounds. Shay's more conventional, soulful sound didn't seem as fashionable, which made it more difficult for them to adapt to the shifting preferences of music consumers. Shay placed a more emphasis on voice quality and music than on marketing gimmicks or pictures, in contrast to other groups that had powerful, memorable imagery or a story. In a time when image and fame were valued more and more, this helped them be recognized as gifted but less marketable. Shay's label didn't always provide them the kind of publicity they needed to stay successful. As a result, their exposure was limited through radio play, music video rotation, and tour support. Number 4. Subway. During the mid-1990s, when R&B was booming with vocal groups and soulful sounds mixing with hip-hop, the Chicago-based R&B group Subway came to prominence. Subway, which was made up of Keith Thomas, Terrell Puckett, Eric McNeil, and Roy Jones, added a new Chicago flair to the R&B landscape by fusing hip-hop sounds with mellow harmonies. They signed to the label Biv 10 Records, which was established by Michael Bivins of New Edition and Belle Biv DeVoe fame, and focused on developing new R&B and hip-hop artists. This Lil Game We Play, a 1994 single starring the all-female R&B trio 702, was Subway's big hit. The song was created by two well-known R&B producers, Edwin Tony Nicholas and Gerald Levert. The concept of the song, which was an open discussion about relationships and love, struck a chord with listeners because of the two groups' deft lyrical interaction, catchy tune, and smooth vocals. The record reached number 4 on the Hot R&B Hip-Hop Songs chart and number 15 on the Billboard Hot 100, indicating its commercial success. It was certified gold by the RIAA and remained on the charts for an astounding 26 weeks, demonstrating its broad appeal. R&B fans from the 1990s still love this song, which is still Subway's hallmark tune. Subway released their first album, Good Times, in January 1995 after the success of their song. Showcasing the group's versatility, the album mirrored the era's tendency of fusing hip-hop sounds with silky R&B vocals. It reflected the feelings of youthful love, heartbreak, and flirting, with a blend of romantic slow jams and lively music. Good Times received praise for its excellent production and genuine feel, even if it didn't have the same chart success as the lead single, peaking at number 101 on the Billboard 200 and number 23 on the R&B hip-hop albums chart. Among the album's standout tracks are Fire, a seductive tune that showcased the group's vocal prowess, and This Is Not a Goodbye, a poignant ballad that captures the anguish of a departing lover. The trio found it difficult to stay afloat in the mid-1990s R&B landscape, which was dominated by powerful performers like Boyz II Men, Jodeci, and 112. Their early decline in popularity was influenced by changes in the music industry and a lack of promotional aid. Number 5. Low Key. The distinctively blended R&B trio Low Key was formed in Kansas City, Missouri, and subsequently based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is home to the Minneapolis sound that Prince, Jimmy Jam, and Terry Lewis established. Founded in the early 1990s, the group was founded and signed by A&M Records, Perspective Records, which is owned by Jam and Lewis. Although they never quite got the sustained attention they deserved, their unique blend of romantic lyrics, groovy instrumentation, and soft vocals made them stand out. Where Day At? Low Key? Its debut album was published by Perspective Records in 1992. With its mix of hip-hop-infused R&B, love ballads, and groovy rhythms, the album was compared to Tony, Tone, Mint Condition, and even The Time. Their first album under Perspective Records, which Terry Lewis and Jimmy Jam produced, included the popular song I Got a Thing for Ya, which peaked at number 1 on the Billboard Hot R&B Hip Hop Airplay and number 27 on the Billboard Hot 100. Hey There Pretty Lady and Sweet on You are two more noteworthy songs. Perspective Records, which also signed Sounds of Blackness, Mint Condition, and other Jam and Lewis albums, signed Low Key. In contrast, the popularity of Low Key was more brief as these groups grabbed center stage. Their long-term exposure suffered since Low Key never had the same amount of follow-up marketing or album funding, even though their initial song was a hit. Low Key, after Where Day At, never put out a full-length follow-up album while they were at their best. Fans were left without a sophomore project as they continued to write and produce behind the scenes, which made it more difficult for the group to keep up momentum or build a lasting repertoire. Unfortunately, the major setback for these groups is lack of promotional backing and being dominated by bigger label mates. Number 6. Troop. The R&B group Troop, which stands for Total Respect of Other People, was founded in the middle of the 1980s and is based in Pasadena, California. After they won a TV talent competition called Puttin' on the Hits by lip-syncing Cool It Now by New Edition, the trio got together. Due to the producers' admiration for their performance, they signed a record deal with Atlantic Records in 1987. They were instantly recognized as potential rookies in the R&B and new jack swing genres after the release of their self-titled first album, Troop, in 1988. Their flexibility was demonstrated by the album's catchy dance tunes and love ballads. The singles Mamacita peaked at number 2 on the Billboard R&B charts, My Heart peaked at number 9, and Still in Love peaked at number 19. The album's number 133 Billboard 200 and number 19 R&B albums chart positions set the stage for a more successful sequel. Troop shot to fame in 1989 with the publication of their second album, Attitude. It went platinum and produced a number of big songs with more sophisticated lyrics and better production. Troop's album solidified their position as one of the best male R&B groups of the time by fusing mellow harmonies with upbeat dance and a chic look. Troop was a flexible group that could flip classics like Pros, dance like New Edition, and harmonize like The Temptations, but they lacked a distinctive image or hook that would have made them easily identifiable. In a time when groups needed to be the church boys, the pretty boys, or the Bad Boys, Troop's all-around appeal paradoxically made it more difficult to sell them as a separate identity. Although they received a lot of publicity for their first two albums, label backing had diminished by the time Deepa and Mayday were released. Even while the music was still good, particularly ballads like Sweet November, they were unable to stay up with the quick-paced nature of the industry without radio, videos, or tours. Number 7. Ideal. Ideal formed in the mid-1990s in Houston, Texas, and consisted of two brothers, Cedric Swab and Maverick Mav Cotton, their cousin Wayne P.Z. Perry, and their high school buddy J.J. Dante Green. All of these individuals had graduated from Houston's Lamar High School. They selected their name by searching a dictionary until they found the word ideal, which they believed reflected perfection and the fantastical nature of their music. The first song, Get Gone, was written and produced by Brian Michael Cox, Jonta Austin, and Kevin Hicks, and was released in July 1999. It became number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 2 on the Hot R&B Hip-Hop Songs chart, demonstrating how much it connected with viewers. The RIAA awarded the song a gold certification, and Tim Story directed the music video. Virgin Records released their self-titled first album on August 24, 1999. It achieved gold certification after selling over 615,000 copies. The album reached its highest position at number 19 on the top R&B hip-hop albums chart and number 83 on the Billboard 200. Critics hailed it as a heartfelt first album, praising its passionate songs and sultry vocal delivery. The group's slick urban sound was highlighted in Creep In, which debuted moderately at number 60 on the R&B charts. Oliver Cheatham's Get Down Saturday Night was sampled in Whatever, which featured Lil Mo and was produced by KG of Naughty by Nature. When it was released in September 2000, it became their second and only successful song, peaked at number 11 on the R&B charts, and won an ASCAP Rhythm and Soul Music Award. Their music, which was a stylistic alternative to female Houston groups like Destiny's Child, was based on romantic themes, refined vocal harmonies, and a self-assured macho edge. Ideal signed with Neutral Ground Universal in 2004 and started recording From Now On, their second album. They worked with well-known producers such as Nissan Stewart, Mike City, Brian Michael Cox, and Rock Wilder. The album was eventually shelved and never published, despite the fact that a lead single, Makin' Time, featuring CeeLo Green, was planned. Shortly after, they stopped being active in the mainstream and their activities decreased. By the middle of the 2020s, most members had transitioned to working behind the scenes. Although Maverick has continued to write songs for other musicians, the trio is still a well-liked retro act. Sadly, in February 2021, Cedric Swab Cotton was fatally murdered in a convenience shop in Houston. He was 46. Fans and the R&B world were severely impacted by his passing, and colleagues, including producer Brian Michael Cox and RL of Next, paid profound condolences. Next on our list, one Grammy Award for Best R&B Performance. Number 8, Men of Vision. The group began as gospel performers at LaGuardia High School of Music and Art in the early 1990s. Before switching to R&B, original members George Spencer III, G-Fly, Corley Randolph, Desmond Greggs, Brian DeRamus, and Courtney Bradley played at local parties and talent events. Prathan Spanky Williams joined the quintet after Courtney Bradley departed early, renaming them Men of Vision to reflect their professional growth. Their 1996 debut album, Personal, is a treasure awaiting rediscovery. A pioneer of the distinctive New Jack Swing style, Teddy Riley produced the lead song, Housekeeper, which was a new twist on a snappy, lively melody. It's enjoyable, smooth, and a little playful, so picture driving through the city with this on your audio. However, Men of Vision had more to offer than just party songs. They demonstrated their ability to slow things down and add the emotional depth that is typical of legendary R&B slow jams from the 1990s with songs like All Night Long. They produced those luscious harmonies that compelled you to pay close attention as their voices melded flawlessly. Although their second album, MOV, didn't receive the recognition it merited, songs like Do It To Me showed they were still relevant. While the mood became smoother and the sound became older, the heart remained the same. The R&B landscape of the 1990s was packed with well-known artists, and men of vision simply did not receive the recognition they were due. They may have had a smaller creative runway as a result of the expectations that came with signing to Michael Jackson's company. But for those who listen closely, Men of Vision offers a flawless example of that R&B groove from the mid-1990s. Passion, precise vocals, and well-executed production. Number 9. IMX, Marques Batman Houston, Jerome Romeo Jones, and Kelton LDB Kesey, three young youths from Los Angeles, formed IMX as Immature in the early 1990s. Immature stood out because, in contrast to many other boy bands that remained stagnant, they genuinely matured throughout time, both in terms of sound and appearance. They changed their name to IMX during the late 1990s to represent their transition from teenage idols to mature artists. For young fans, early Immature was all about youthful, catchy R&B songs with amusing lyrics and bubblegum tunes. As they developed into IMX, their music became more sophisticated and mature, with smoother production, deeper lyrics, and a greater focus on their vocal prowess. Their sound blends modern R&B with a streetwise edge with the iconic New Jack Swing of the 1990s. They could do everything from upbeat party hits to lovely mellow songs. Never Tell Lies. Their greatest success at the time was an honest, passionate song about love and trust that still has an emotional impact today. Tear It Up, an upbeat, danceable song that demonstrated their ability to be both entertaining and assertive. They were raised in the public eye. As IMX grew older, they tackled more adult issues that their initial fans could connect to, unlike many boy bands that remained stuck in the past. IMX made appearances in the television series Sister, Sister, A Different World, and All That. She also acted in the movies House Party 3 and House Party 4. LDB worked behind the scenes in production. Romeo, Young Rome, released his own record, and Houston went on to explore solo careers. Number 10. Cut Close. In the early 1990s, the American R&B girl group Cut Close was founded in Atlanta, Georgia. LaVon Battle, Tabitha Duncan, and Athena Cage made up the trio. They were founded by Keith Sweat, an R&B singer who produced their first album. Smooth voices and a fusion of modern R&B and New Jack Swing elements defined their style. Cut Close did more than simply support Keith Sweat. They were a powerful force that was seldom given credit. Fans of both classic R&B and the New Jack Swing era found Cut Close's music enticing because of its seductive lyrics and beautiful harmonies. Their partnership with Keith Sweat added a sophisticated production aesthetic that enhanced their vocal prowess. Their breakthrough single, I Like, reached number 8 on the Hot R&B Hip Hop Songs chart and number 34 on the Billboard Hot 100. Their duet Twisted with Keith Sweat peaked at number 1 on the R&B charts, demonstrating their ability to fit in well with Sweat's sound. Give Up March 14, 1995 saw the release of their first and only studio album via Elektra Records. Keith Sweat was mostly responsible for producing the album, which included songs like I Like, Lovely Thing, and Surrender. It reached its highest position on the top R&B hip-hop albums chart at number 12 and at number 66 on the Billboard 200. Cut Close got back together and put out new music after a break. Let It Ring, their 2010 song, was followed by Congratulations, an anthem for female empowerment, in 2020, With these albums, they demonstrated their dedication to developing their sound and their ongoing presence in the R&B industry. Although their early partnerships increased their visibility, they also had the unintended consequence of making them appear more like a supporting cast member than independent celebrities. Their deal with Keith Sweat's Kea Records was one of the key reasons Koot Klose never put out a second album or enjoyed long-term public success. In subsequent interviews, Levon Battle claims that the group agreed to a 7-album agreement under Sweat's management and gave up their publication rights for a meager $1. This choice was taken during their early perilous days in the music industry. Because of this kind of agreement, they were unable to quickly explore outside chances or sign with other labels without running the danger of legal repercussions. They did not own their masters, and they received little money from their best successes. They were essentially held to a musical contract that offered them neither financial stability nor much creative independence. Red tape still prevented a sophomore album from being released, despite popular desire. Number 11. Changing Faces. Changing Faces established its own path in 90s R&B, which was influenced by the streetwise harmonies of SWV, the gospel-based intensity of Xscape, and the audacious strength of TLC. Their sound was mature, sensuous, and slightly aggressive. Instead of yelling, they floated. However, behind that polished performance were poignant songs about empowerment, desire, and betrayal. Cassandra Lucas from East Harlem and Charisse Rose from the Bronx, both graduates of New York's High School of Music and Art, founded Changing Faces. Following graduation, both went on to get college degrees before getting back together as backing vocalists, most notably when they toured with pop/R&B singer Sybil, who is best known for her smash song, Don't Make Me Over. Over the course of 2 years, Cassandra and Charisse recorded demos at night while working day jobs, Cassandra at a daycare, Charisse at a dermatologist's clinic. When producer Kenny Smooth Cornegay found them and connected them to R. Kelly, who agreed to produce their debut album, their hard work paid off. R. Kelly wrote and produced the song Changing Faces, which was released under the Big Beat / Atlantic Records label. However, what really made it stand out was Cassandra and Charisse's innate vocal connection and mature demeanor. Stroke You Up is a seductive, bold, and recognizable song. It went platinum, peaking at number 2 R&B and 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. The two were compared to Janet Jackson and Jody Watley, but with a more gritty realism, and it changed their game. A smooth, mid-tempo warning to an unfaithful mate, Foolin' Around made it to the R&B Top 10. Am I Wasting My Time? And Keep It Right There established their mature and seductive path by striking a balance between quiet power and sensitivity. R&B had changed by 1997. It had more attitude and hip-hop. However, Changing Faces managed to change without losing their core identity. Ghettout, an anthem of freedom from a toxic relationship, it peaked at number 8 on the Hot 100 and number 1 on the R&B charts for 4 weeks. Its video, which featured Cassandra and Charisse loading the possessions of an unfaithful guy into garbage bags, went viral on MTV and BET. R. Kelly continued to be a well-known producer, but Cassandra Lucas showed a desire for independence by taking on greater creative responsibility in her writing and co-producing. They are still among the most appropriate underdogs in the genre, but their hits and harmonies are where they shine the greatest. Number 12. H-Town. The formation of H-Town in Houston, Texas in the early 1990s gave rise to their moniker. At first, the group was made up of 3 people: their close buddy Bobby Big Ray Wright, brothers Kevin Dean O'Connor, and Solomon Shazam Connor. Growing up in a musically interested household, the brothers' early exposure to gospel and soul music influenced their rich singing style. During their adolescent years, they formed a trio and soon found a combination that combined impassioned lead vocals with tight harmonies. Amidst a landscape dominated by East and West Coast bands, their distinct fusion of smooth R&B, New Jack Swing, and Southern Soul was something new. Producers Joe Little III and Michael Marshall contributed to the production of H-Town's debut album, Fever for Da Flavor. The lead track from the album, Knockin' Da Boots, quickly became a classic. The 90s slow jam feel was flawlessly captured by the song's combination of sensuous melodies, sensual lyrics, and relaxed production. Their hallmark song, Knockin' Da Boots, peaked at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 and at the top of the R&B charts. Almost 30 years later, slow jam is still a mainstay. Dino Connor, the vocalist and main singer, lost his life in a vehicle accident in 2003. The group and its fan base were devastated by this loss. Dino's death had a significant impact on the group's momentum since his voice was essential to H-Town's identity. Nevertheless, by playing and preserving the music, Solomon Shazam Connor and Bobby Big Ray Wright carried on Dino's legacy. The band continues to tour and sometimes put out new songs. They joined groups like Jodeci, Silk, and Drew Hill on 90s R&B tours and released independent songs like Knocking Your Heels Off in the 2010s. H-Town also made an appearance on TV One's Unsung, which provided a behind-the-scenes look at their career, Dino's passing, and the costs associated with the music industry. Number 13. Public Announcement. In the early 1990s, Public Announcement formed in Chicago, Illinois, a thriving center for soul and R&B music. Big Mel, Glenn Wright, Andre Boykins, and Filoni Davis made up the initial lineup. R. Kelly, a budding singer-songwriter and producer at the time, became interested in them shortly after they were formed. R. Kelly asked them to join him as his backing vocal group after noticing their potential and vocal ability. Their combined contribution of backup vocals and vocal harmonies enhanced Kelly's sound. Because of their collaboration, Public Announcement evolved from a support band to a key component of Kelly's early persona. The seductive, mid-tempo, slow groove Honey Love rose to prominence as one of the top R&B singles of 1992. It reached the top of the R&B charts and number 39 on the Billboard Hot 100. Public Announcement continued to exist as a standalone group when R. Kelly made the decision to focus solely on his solo career following the success of Born into the 90s. They had to reinvent their identity and sound without R. Kelly's star power and affiliation, which made the shift difficult. Over the years, the group's lineup changed, although Filoni Davis was always the lead singer. They incorporated their own style, which focused on sensuous themes, catchy choruses, and silky voices, into the New Jack Swing and modern R&B sounds that were prominent at the time. All Work, No Play, the band Public Announcement's debut album, without R. Kelly, was published by A&M Records in 1998. They were able to establish themselves as independent lead musicians with this record. The album reached its highest position at 20s on the top R&B hip-hop albums chart and 81 on the Billboard 200. Bumpin' Body, Yippee Yee Yo, a peppy, danceable tune that, without R. Kelly, became their hallmark hit. Their commercial potential was demonstrated when it rose to 4 on the R&B charts and 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. Number 14, As Yet. As Yet sprang to prominence amid the height of male vocal groups' popularity, but their unrivaled vocal harmony, flawless production, and style that combined mainstream crossover appeal with vintage R&B made them stand out. Even though they only put out one significant studio album as a group, their talent made a huge impression. When the group first formed in the early 1990s, Babyface took notice and signed them to his company, LaFace Records. Babyface was so confident in their vocal ability that he helped create their sound in addition to executive producing their debut. Their self-titled debut album, which featured tight harmonies, powerful composition, and Babyface's support, was both critically and commercially lauded. After the first album, Mark Nelson departed the group because of creative disagreements, despite their popularity. Though they never quite recaptured the same chemistry or industry drive, As yet made an effort to carry on with new vocalists. Darnell Van Rensselaer, Kenny Laram, Jonathan Lewis, and Vernon Adams were the four gifted vocalists in the original group. As yet never quite made it to the top levels of popular R&B stardom like some of their peers, e.g. Boyz II Men, Blackstreet, despite receiving positive reviews and having a devoted fan following. Although their refined and sophisticated sound attracted to R&B aficionados, they occasionally didn't have the same radio rotation or mass-market push as more commercial, catchy artists. The group's use of covers for their greatest songs occasionally overshadowed their original compositions, which limited their distinctiveness in the eyes of casual listeners. The more ostentatious or hip-hop influenced R&B styles of the late 1990s impacted their wider appeal, in contrast to their delicate, sophisticated vocal style. Number 15. Playa. The R&B trio Playa was popular in the late 1990s and was located in Atlanta. The band featured Juan Black Peters, Smoke E. DeGlera, and lead vocalist, composer, and producer Stephen Static Major Garrett. They combined Southern elements, hip-hop soul, and seductive R&B in a seamless way. They only put out one significant album, Cheers to You, which received positive reviews and did not do very well at the box office. Although they didn't become well known, songs like Cheers to You and I Gotta Know became favorites among fans. Static gained further recognition as a successful producer and composer for well-known musicians, including Genuine, Pony, and Aaliyah. Try Again. Playa's exposure was restricted because of his success behind the scenes, which made them more of a side project than a group to follow. Playa, who was signed to Def Jam Blackground Records, had trouble getting noticed. They were unable to gain momentum after their debut because their label did not make significant investments in marketing or the release of follow-up albums. They fused hip-hop with silky R&B in a way that made their music difficult to categorize for marketing or radio. This made it more difficult to properly brand and market them. Playa's influence was frozen in time when Static passed away suddenly in 2008, drawing attention away from the group's work and toward his songwriting legacy. To uncover more intriguing stories among Hollywood celebrities, don't forget to hit subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.